The great hall of the Galactic Council was quiet, too quiet for a place that usually buzzed with the voices of thousands of different alien species. Elder Counselor Morden sat in his floating chair, his old eyes looking at the empty seats around him. Many council members had left early today. They always did when someone brought up the forbidden topic. "The humans are getting too strong," Counselor Vexthara said. Her voice echoed in the large chamber. She was young for a Zenthari, only 300 years old. Her blue skin showed the anger she felt inside. "They control 12 star systems?" "Now, 12, that's more than any single species should have." Morden shook his head slowly. His gray skin looked even older than usual. "Child, you speak of things you do not understand. There is a reason we have the rule about Earth's fleet, a very good reason." "What reason?" Vexthara stood up from her seat. Her forearms moved as she talked, showing how upset she was. "They are just one species. One small species from a tiny blue planet. Why should we fear them?" The old counselor was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was soft but serious. "Because the last time someone thought that way, 3 entire civilizations stopped existing." Far away from the council halls, Admiral Teho Kim stood on the bridge of his ship. The used Dauntless was humanity's newest warship. It was big, powerful, and filled with technology that most aliens could not even dream of. But to Teho, it was just home. "Admiral, we're getting some strange signals," said Navigator Sojin Park. She was young but very smart. Her fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "Someone is using old military codes, very old codes." Teho walked over to look at her screen. The signals were faint, but they were there. Someone was trying to hide their messages, but human technology was too good. It picked up everything. "How old are these codes?" Teho asked. "About 50 years old, sir," Sojin replied. "From the War of the Shattered Stars." The bridge became very quiet. Everyone knew about that war. It was the last time aliens had tried to fight Earth's fleet. It did not end well for the aliens. Weapons Officer Hyun-Woo Lee looked up from his station. "Sir, should we be worried? Those codes haven't been used since someone was stupid?" "Enough to attack human colonies," Teho finished. "Yes, I know," he thought for a moment. "Sojin, can you track where these signals are coming from?" "Working on it now, sir," she said. Her hands moved even faster. "It looks like the Kepler Nebula. That's strange. There's nothing out there but gas and dust." Chief Engineer Miran Choi spoke up from her position near the back of the bridge. "Actually, sir, there is something. Old sensor data shows there used to be a Zenthari listening post there. It was abandoned years ago." Teho nodded. The pieces were starting to fit together. Someone was using old military codes from an abandoned listening post. Someone who wanted to plan something in secret. "Set course for the Kepler Nebula," he ordered. "And send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we might have a problem." Back on the Council world, Vexthara was meeting with her secret allies. The room was small and dark, perfect for planning things that others should not know about. "The humans grow stronger every day," said General Korthax of the Korthic hegemony. He was a big alien with thick armor covering his body. "My people remember when humans first came to space. They were weak then, scared. Now look at them." "That is exactly my point," Vexthara said. "We waited too long. If we wait more, it will be too late." The third member of their group was harder to see. The Silari were energy beings who lived in special suits. When Collective Voice Silenara spoke, her voice sounded like music. "But the words were not beautiful," the Collective agrees. "Humans have become too dangerous, but the old ones warn us. They say there is a reason for the rule about Earth's fleet." "Stories," Vexthara said, waving one of her hands. "Old stories meant to scare children. The humans want us to believe they are monsters, but they are just another species like us." General Korthax was not so sure. "My grandfather fought in the border wars 70 years ago. He saw what human ships could do. He said they fought like demons." "Your grandfather was probably scared," Vexthara replied. "Fear makes everything look bigger and scarier than it." Really is. But deep in the Council archives, the real records told a different story. Records that most people were not allowed to see. Records that explained why the Galactic Council had created the rule about Earth's fleet. The first record was from the Megar Empire. It was short, Day 1247 of the war. The humans have destroyed our home fleet. Requesting immediate assistance. Day 1248. They have glassed our homeworld. Empire surrenders unconditionally. The second record was from the Vorthan Confederacy. Human fleet detected entering Vorthan space. All ships ordered to intercept. Update: human ships using unknown. Weapons: our vessels are being destroyed faster than we can count them. Final update: Confederacy no longer exists. The third record was the most frightening. It was from the Thekmor Collective, a species that no longer existed. The humans do not fight like other species. They do not seek glory or territory. They seek only to end the war as quickly as possible. They are efficient, they are thorough, they are absolutely terrifying. To whoever finds this record, do not fight the humans. Please, learn from our mistake. Elder Counselor Morden knew these records by heart. He had been young when the wars happened. He had seen the human fleets in action. That was why he always tried to stop others from making the same mistake, but young species never listened to the old ones. They always thought they knew better. On the Dauntless, Admiral Tejo was reading reports from his intelligence officer. The signals were definitely coming from the old Xanthari listening post. More importantly, they were using codes that only high-ranking military officers would know. "Sir," Sojin said from her station, "we're getting close to the nebula. Should I take us in?" Tejo thought about it. The nebula would hide them from sensors, but it would also hide anyone else who might be there. It could be a trap. "Take us in, but slowly," he decided, "and keep all weapons ready." The Dauntless moved into the colorful clouds of gas and dust. The nebula was beautiful, but also dangerous. The gases could damage ship systems if they were not careful. "Contact on sensors," Weapons Officer Hayamu reported. "It's the old listening post, and sir, it's not as abandoned as we thought." On the main screen, they could see the station. It was small and old, but there were ships docked to it. Alien ships from different species. Ships that should not be. Working together? Well, Tejo said quietly, that's not good. He was right. It was not good at all. Because while the aliens were meeting in secret, planning their attack on human colonies, they had forgotten the most important rule in the galaxy, the rule that had been written in blood and fire. 50 years ago. The rule that said, don't meddle. With Earth's fleet, they knew the rule. Every species in the galaxy knew it, but they thought they were smarter. They thought they were stronger. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The meeting on the old listening post was going exactly as Vexthara had planned. Representatives from 3 different species sat around a holographic table, looking at star maps and fleet positions. They called themselves the Triumvirate, and they believed they were about to change the galaxy forever. "The humans have spread their ships thin," General Korthax said, pointing at the display with one of his armored fingers. "They have strong defenses around Earth and their core worlds, but the outer colonies are protected by only a few ships." Collective Voice Solinara energy form flickered with excitement. "The Collective has run the numbers. If we strike fast and hard at multiple targets, their fleet cannot be everywhere at once." Vexthara smiled. Her plan was working perfectly. "Exactly. We hit 3 colonies at the same time. New Bizan, Port Inchin, and Haven's Rest. All of them are important too. Human trade, but none of them have more than a handful of defenders." "And after we destroy the colonies?" General Korthax asked. "The humans will be forced to negotiate," Vexthara explained. "They care too much about their civilians. When they see what we can do, they will give us what we want." What they did not know was that Admiral Tejo Kim was listening to every word they said. The Dauntless had special technology that could pick up conversations from inside the station. Human intelligence was much better than the aliens realized. "Are you getting all of this?" Tejo asked his communications officer quietly. "Every word, sir. the officer replied. Should we stop them now? Tejo thought about it. He could destroy the station and all the ships around it with one shot. But that would only kill these particular aliens. It would not stop others from making the same mistake later. No, he decided. Let them make their move. But send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them what's coming. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Donghae Yun was having a quiet patrol. His ship, the UES Vengeance, was checking trade routes near the border between human and alien space. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Captain, his tactical officer Yoonji Kim called out, I'm seeing some unusual fleet movements. Multiple alien ships heading toward human space. Donghae looked at the sensor display. She was right. There were more alien ships moving around than usual, and they were all heading in the same direction. What kind of ships? He asked. Mixed types, Yoonji replied. Some Xanthari cruisers, Korthic battleships, and what looks like a Solari collective fleet. They're not supposed to be working together. That was strange. Those three species had been enemies for centuries. The only thing that could bring them together was a common enemy. And there was only one species in the galaxy that all the others feared enough to unite against. Set course to follow them, Dong Hyun ordered. But keep our distance. And send a message to Admiral Park. Tell him we might have a problem. Admiral Seung-min Park was supposed to be retired. He had fought in more battles than any other human. Alive, and he had earned his rest. But when the message from Captain Yoon reached him, he knew his retirement would have to wait. The old admiral looked at himself in the mirror of his small apartment on Mars. His hair was gray now, and his face was covered with scars from old battles. People called him the Iron Wolf because he never gave up. No matter how bad things got, he had hoped he would never have to fight again. But it seemed like some aliens never learned. His communication device beeped. It was Fleet Admiral Chang Ho. Lim, the head of all human naval forces. Seung-min, the fleet admiral said, we need you back. I know, Seung-min replied. I've been watching the reports. How bad is it? Bad enough. Intelligence says they're planning to hit 3 colonies. At once? They think we can't respond fast enough to save them all. Seung-min laughed, but there was no humor in it. They think we're still the same humans from 50 years ago. They think we haven't learned anything. The question is, have they learned? Anything? Chang Ho asked. We're about to find out, Seung-min answered. Send me the fleet positions and wake up the reserve fleets. All of them. Back on the listening post, the triumvirate was making their final plans. They had divided their forces into 3 attack groups, each one strong enough to destroy a human colony. Remember, Vexthara told the others, we are not trying to conquer human space. We are sending a message. We are showing them that they are not as powerful as they think. What if they fight back? Asked a young Korthak officer, General. Korthax hit the table with his fist. Let them fight. We have 500 ships. They have maybe 50 in the area. The numbers are on our side. Collective voice Silanara was not so confident. The collective remembers the old stories. Stories of human ships that could destroy entire fleets by themselves. Stories, Vexthara said again. Just stories. The humans want us to believe they are monsters, so we will be too scared to fight them, but fear is just in our minds. We can choose not to be afraid. The meeting ended with everyone feeling confident about their plan. The attack would begin. In 3 days, 3 colonies would be destroyed, and the humans would learn that they were not the masters of the galaxy. But while the aliens were celebrating, the humans were preparing. On Luna, Earth's moon, the great shipyards were working at full speed. Ships that had been in storage for years were being brought back to life. Weapons that had not been fired in decades were being tested and loaded. Admiral So-young Park, daughter of the famous Iron Wolf, was overseeing the preparation of the 7th Battle Group. Her flagship, the UES Nemesis, was a monster of a ship. It was twice as big as anything the aliens had, and its weapons could destroy a planet if necessary. How long until we're ready? She asked her chief engineer. 12 hours for full combat readiness, came the reply. All weapon systems are green, and we have a full load of quantum torpedoes. So Young nodded. Quantum torpedoes were banned by most galactic treaties because they were too dangerous. But humanity had never signed those treaties. They preferred to keep their options open. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Tejo was reading the latest intelligence reports. The alien fleets were moving into position. Soon, they would attack the colonies and the war would begin. "Sir," Navigator Sojin said, "we have new orders from Fleet Command." Tejo looked at the message. It was short and simple. Continue observation. Do not interfere with alien attack. Repeat, do not interfere. Sojin looked confused. "Sir, shouldn't we warn the colonies?" "The colonies already know," Tejo explained. "This is bigger than just saving 3 worlds. This is about teaching the galaxy a lesson they will never forget." Chief Engineer Mirren looked up from her station. "What kind of lesson?" Tejo's face was grim. "The same lesson we taught 50 years ago, the lesson that some species refuse to learn." He paused, looking out at the stars. "The lesson that says, don't meddle with Earth's fleet." In the deep files of human military intelligence, there were records that most people never saw. Records of weapons that were never supposed to be used. Records of ships that were never supposed to be built. Records of battles that were never supposed to be fought. But sometimes, the universe forced humanity to do things it did not want to do. The aliens thought they knew what they were facing. They had studied human ships and human tactics. They had counted human fleets and calculated human response times. What they had not calculated was human anger. What they had not studied was human determination. What they had not counted was the fact that humanity had been preparing for this day for 50 years. The attack on the colonies would succeed. The aliens would destroy 3 human worlds and kill millions of innocent people. They would think they had won. They would be wrong, because while they were celebrating their victory, the largest human fleet in history would be moving toward them. A fleet commanded by admirals who had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. A fleet that would remind the galaxy why there was only one rule that every species followed without question, the rule about Earth's fleet. The alarms on New Bizan started screaming at exactly 0600 local time. Commander Jinwook Oh was drinking his morning coffee when the first explosions lit up the sky. Through the window of his command center, he could see alien ships dropping out of hyperspace like angry wasps. "All hands to battle stations," he shouted into his communicator. "This is not a drill." The UES Retribution was the only warship protecting New Bizan. It was a good ship with a good crew, but it was just one ship against 50. The math was not in their favor. "Sir, I count 47 enemy vessels," reported his tactical officer. "Mix of Xanthari cruisers and Korthak battleships." "They're forming attack formations." Jinwook looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready to fight. That was what made humans different from other species. When things got bad, they did not run away. They stood their ground. "Load all weapons," he ordered, "and send a distress signal to Fleet Command. Tell them New Bizan is under attack." The first alien ships opened fire on the colony's defensive platforms. The platforms were strong, but not strong enough. One by one, they exploded in bright flashes of light. "Sir, the planetary shields are down to 60%, his engineering officer reported. 40%, she said a moment later. 20%. Shields are gone, sir." Jinwook watched as the alien ships began bombing the city below. Buildings that had taken years to build were destroyed in seconds. People who had never hurt anyone were dying because aliens wanted to send a message to Earth. "Take us in," he ordered. "All weapons fire at will." The Retribution charged into the middle of the alien fleet. It was like one Volf attacking a pack of bears, but the Volf had very sharp teeth. The ship's quantum cannons tore through alien shields like they were made of paper. The first Xanthari cruiser exploded before it even knew it was under attack. The second one lasted 5 seconds longer. "Good shooting," Jinwook called out. "Keep it up," but there were too many of them. For every alien ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. The Retribution's shields were failing and her hull was taking damage. "Sir, we've lost weapons array 3, his weapons officer reported. "And our main engines are down to half." "Power," Jin-wook looked at the tactical display. They had destroyed 12 alien ships, but 35 were still left. The colony below was burning, and his ship was dying. That was when his communications officer, Haijin Lee, spoke up. "Sir, I'm getting a transmission from the surface. The governor wants to surrender." "Tell the governor that surrender is not an option," Jin-wook replied. "And send one more message to Fleet Command. Tell them—" He paused, thinking of the right words. "Tell them that Earth's fleet remembers." 200 light-years away, Port Incheon was facing the same nightmare. The colony there was smaller than New Bizan, but it was just as important to humanity. It was where human ships stopped to refuel on their way to the Outer Rim. The defending ship there was the UES Guardian, commanded by Captain Minesio Kim. She was young for a captain. Only 32 years old, but she had graduated first in her class from the Naval Academy. "Status report," she called out as alien ships filled the space around her colony. 63 enemy ships, her tactical officer replied. "They're not even trying to hide their numbers. They want us to see how outnumbered we are." Minesio nodded. That was a classic intimidation tactic. Show the enemy that resistance is hopeless, and maybe they will give up without fighting. It might work on other species. It would not work on humans. "Target the lead ship," she ordered. "Let's show them what one human ship can do." The Guardian's first shot took out the alien flagship's engines. The second shot destroyed its weapons. The third shot made it explode. In a ball of fire that lit up space for kilometers around, but like at New Bizan, there were too many alien ships. The Guardian fought bravely, but she was slowly being torn apart. Evans rest. The third target, Captain Jamin Park, was facing the same impossible odds. His ship, the UES Defender, was the smallest of the 3 defending vessels, but his crew was just as determined to fight. "They want to destroy our colonies to send a message," he told his crew over the ship's communication system. "Well, let's send them a message back. Let's show them what happens when you attack innocent humans." All 3 battles raged for hours. The human ships fought like cornered tigers, destroying far more alien vessels than should have been possible. But in the end, numbers won out. The UES Retribution was the first to fall. Commander Jin-wook Oh's last transmission was simple. "Earth's fleet? Avenge us." The UES Guardian lasted another hour before her reactor finally gave out. Captain Minesio Kim's final words were, "Tell my family I died well." The UES Defender held out the longest, using the wreckage of destroyed alien ships as cover. But even Captain Jamin Park's ship eventually succumbed to the overwhelming enemy fire. When the battles were over, 3 human colonies were burning. Millions of people were dead. The alien fleets regrouped and began sending victory messages back to their OEO LDS.COUNCIL. Or Vexthara received the news while she was meeting with the council. She stood up from her seat, her forearms raised in triumph. "The deed is done," she announced to the assembled aliens. 3 human colonies have been destroyed. Now we will see if the humans are as strong as they pretend to be. Elder Counselor. Morden looked at her with sad, ancient eyes. "Child, you have no idea what you have done." "I have shown the galaxy that humans can be beaten," Vexthara replied. "I have proven that they are not the monsters we thought they were." "No," Morden said quietly. "You have awakened the real monsters. And may whatever gods you believe in have mercy on us all." Admiral Taeho Kim received the news while his ship was still hidden in the Kepler Nebula. He had watched the alien fleets leave for their attacks, and now he was watching them return. They were celebrating. Navigator Sojin Park looked at the casualty reports with tears in her eyes. "Sir, the confirmed death toll is over 12 million people, civilians mostly. Families with children." Taeho said nothing for a long moment. He just stared at the numbers on his screen. 12 million innocent people, dead because aliens wanted to prove a point. "Sir," Sojin asked, "what are your orders?" Taeho looked up at his crew. Their faces showed the same emotion he was feeling. Not fear, not sadness, anger, pure, cold anger. "Set course for Earth," he said quietly, "and send a message to Fleet. Command. Tell them the war has begun." Chief Engineer Mirren looked up from her station. "Sir, what about the alien fleets?" "They're regrouping near the nebula." "Let them celebrate," Tejo replied. "They'll have plenty of time to regret what they've done. But first they need to see what they're really up against." The message from Admiral Tejo reached Fleet Command just as similar messages were arriving from human ships across the galaxy. The aliens had made their move. Now it was humanity's turn. Fleet Admiral Chang-Ho Lim stood in the main command center on Luna, looking at tactical displays that showed the positions of every human ship in known space. For 50 years, those ships had been scattered across hundreds of star systems, keeping the peace and protecting trade routes. Not anymore. "Send the activation codes," he ordered. "All reserve fleets, all mothballed ships, everything we have. I want every human warship operational within 24 hours. His aide looked worried. "Sir, that includes the experimental vessels. The ones with weapons that violate galactic treaties." Chang Ho's face was stone. "The aliens violated something more important than treaties. They killed our people. Now they get to see why we have those treaties in the first place." On Mars, Admiral. Sung-Min Park was already suiting up for battle. The Iron Wolf had been called back to service, and he was ready to show the galaxy why he had earned his nickname, his old flagship. The UES Vengeance was being brought out of mothballs. She was an old ship, but she had been refitted with humanity's LATST weapons. Weapons that had never been tested in real battle. "Admiral," his new executive officer said, "the ship will be ready for combat in 18 hours. "Make it 12, Sung-Min replied, "and load the special ammunition. All of it." "Sir, that's enough firepower to destroy a star system." "Good," the Iron Wolf said. "We're going to need it." All across human space, the same scene was playing out. Ships that had been sleeping for years were waking up. Weapons that had been stored in secret locations were being loaded and activated. Crews that had been enjoying peaceful lives were reporting for duty. The aliens thought they had struck the first blow in a war. They could win. They were wrong. They had not started a war. They had awakened something that had been sleeping for 50 years. Something that most of the galaxy had forgotten existed. They had awakened. Earth's fleet, the real Earth's fleet, not the patrol ships and defensive vessels that protected trade routes and kept pirates in line, the warships, the planet killers, the vessels that had once turned entire star systems into graveyards, the ships that had earned humanity its fearsome reputation in the first place. And now those ships were coming for them. Fleet Admiral Chang-Ho Lim stood before the largest gathering of human military officers in 50 years. The great war room on Luna was packed with admirals, captains, and commanders who had come from every corner of human space. Some had been pulled from peaceful patrol duties. Others had been brought out of retirement. All of them had the same look in their eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chang-Ho began, his voice carrying clearly through the massive room. 12 hours ago, alien forces attacked 3 of our colonies. 12 million civilians are dead. Men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong except live under the protection of Earth's fleet. The room was completely silent. Even the air recycling systems seemed to be holding their breath. "The aliens believe they have taught us a lesson," Chang-Ho continued. "They believe they have shown us that we are not as strong as we think we are. They are wrong. Today, we remind the galaxy why there is only one rule that every species follows without question." He pressed a button on his control panel, and the room's main display lit up with star charts showing the positions of human fleets across the galaxy. General Order 66 is now in effect. Total War Protocol. Every reserve fleet is activated. Every mothballed ship is returned to service. Every weapon in our arsenal is now available for use. He paused, looking at each face in the room. "We are going to show the aliens what Earth's fleet really looks like when it is angry. Admiral Sungmin Park, the Iron Wolf, stood up from his chair. What are our rules of engagement? Chang Ho's smile was cold as winter on Pluto. There are no rules. The aliens wanted to see monsters. We will show them monsters. Captain Jae-sung. Kim had never seen his ship move so quietly through space. The UES Shadow was humanity's most advanced stealth vessel, equipped with technology that made it completely invisible to alien sensors. It could slip past entire enemy fleets without being detected. Right now, it was deep in the Zenthari space, gathering intelligence on enemy positions. Jae-sung stood on his bridge, watching as his sensors mapped out the alien defenses. What do you see? He asked his intelligence officer. They're not even trying to hide, came the reply. Orbital platforms around their major worlds, fleet concentrations. At strategic points, they're preparing for a defensive war. Jae-sung almost felt sorry for them, almost. They think we're going to attack their military targets first. They think this will be like other wars they've fought. Won't it be, sir? No, Jae-sung said quietly. This won't be like any war they've ever seen. Keep scanning. I want to know the location of every enemy ship, every base, every important target, and transmit everything back to Fleet Command. The Shadow continued its silent mission, mapping the enemy's strength and weaknesses. But Jae-sung knew that all the intelligence in the galaxy would not save the aliens from what was coming. On the bridge of the UES Nemesis, Admiral So-young Park was reviewing the combat specifications of her ship. The Nemesis was not just a warship. It was a statement. A declaration that humanity would not be pushed around by anyone. Final systems check, she ordered. All weapon systems green, her weapons officer reported. We have a full load of quantum torpedoes, singularity missiles, and temporal displacement charges. Temporal displacement charges? Asked her executive officer. I thought those were banned by the Geneva Accords. So-young looked at him with the same cold smile her father was famous for. The Geneva Accords only apply to warfare between human nations. They don't say anything about fighting aliens who attack our colonies. The Nemesis was the flagship of the 7th Battle Group, 12 of humanity's most powerful warships. Each ship in the group could destroy an entire alien fleet by itself. Together, they were capable of sterilizing whole star systems. Admiral, her communications officer called out, we're receiving final deployment orders from Fleet Command. So-young read the orders on her personal display. Their target was the Zenthari home system, not just military targets. Everything. Plot a course for Zenthari Prime, she ordered. Maximum speed. The 7th Battle Group began moving toward enemy space. Behind them, dozens of other human fleets were doing the same thing. The largest military force in human history was mobilizing for war. Council LOR Vexthara was beginning to realize that she might have made a mistake. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy of human ships moving in ways they had never moved before. Not scattered patrol vessels, but entire fleets, war fleets. How many ships are they mobilizing? She asked her intelligence chief. We're not sure, came the worried reply. Our agents report at least 300 major warships, but there could be more, many more. Vexthara felt a cold fear growing in her stomach. 300? That's impossible. The humans don't have 300 warships. Apparently they do, her aide replied. And according to our sources, these aren't the same ships that normally patrol human space. These are different, bigger, more heavily armed. What do you mean, different? The aide was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I mean, they're bringing out the ships they used in the War of the Shattered Stars, the ships they swore they would never use again. Vexthara sat down heavily in her chair. The War of the Shattered Stars was 50 years ago, but every alien child still learned about it in school. It was used as an example of what happened when you made humanity truly angry. Contact General Korthax and Collective Voice Silanara, she ordered. Emergency meeting, now. General Korthax was having his own problems. His military advisors were bringing him reports that made no sense. Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the direction of human space, his chief of staff reported. Our sensors have never seen anything like it. What kind of energy signatures? The kind that come from ships charging weapons that should not exist. Korthax looked at the tactical display showing human fleet movements. There were so many red dots on the screen that it looked like someone had spilled blood on the star charts. How did they hide so many ships? He demanded. We don't think they were hiding them, sir, his intelligence officer said. We think they were stored, deactivated, waiting for what? For someone to be stupid enough to attack their colonies. Collective Voice Silanara was not handling the news any better. The Silari were beings of pure energy, and right now her energy was crackling with fear and anger. The collective ran the probability calculations, she told her advisors. When we planned the attack, the chances of success were 94.7%. And now? One of her subordinates asked. Now, the calculations show a 2.3% chance of survival for any of us. The meeting between the three triumvirate leaders took place on the same listening post where they had planned their attack, but the mood was very different now. We have to negotiate, General Korthax said immediately. Offer them reparations. Promise never to attack human colonies again. Something. The humans don't negotiate during wartime, Vextara replied. Not anymore, not since the border wars. Collective Voice Silanara's energy form was flickering. Wildly, the collective suggests immediate surrender. Complete and unconditional surrender? Vextara could not believe what she was hearing. We destroyed 3 of their colonies. We showed them that they can be hurt. And now they're showing us what happens when you hurt them, Korthax replied grimly, far away from the panicking alien. Leaders Admiral Taeho Kim was finally bringing his ship home. The used Dauntless had been watching the enemy for weeks, gathering intelligence and waiting for orders. Now those orders had come, course laid in for Earth, Navigator Sojin reported. We should arrive in 6 hours? Any word from the colonies? Taeho asked. Chief Engineer Mirren shook her head sadly. No survivors reported from New Bizen or Port Incheon. Haven's Rest had some civilians in deep shelters, but the colony is completely destroyed. Taeho nodded grimly. He had expected as much. The aliens had been thorough in their destruction. They wanted to send a clear message to humanity. Now humanity would send a message back. Sir, Weapons Officer Hyan Wu called out, we're receiving a transmission from Fleet Command. It's marked as Priority Alpha. Priority Alpha meant orders that came directly from the top. Orders that could not be questioned or delayed. Taeho read the message on his personal display. It was short and simple. Report to Mars Command for reassignment. To Hunter-Killer Group 7, target. All alien military assets in Sectors 14 through 23, rules of engagement. None. Sojin looked over at him. Hunter-Killer Group? I've never heard of those before. They're new, Taeho explained. Or rather, they're old, from the last war. Small groups of ships designed to hunt down and destroy everything the enemy has. Everything? Everything, Taeho confirmed. Ships, bases, supply depots, communication relays. Anything that helps the enemy fight. We don't stop until there's nothing left. The Dauntless changed course for Mars, where she would join other ships in one of humanity's most devastating military formations. Across the galaxy, similar groups were forming. Hunter-killer groups, siege fleets, planetary assault forces, and stranger things that had no names in any language. The aliens had wanted to see what humanity was really capable of. They were about to find out, but it would not be a lesson they survived to remember. The Battle of Zarian 7 would be remembered as the moment the galaxy learned what Earth's fleet could really do when it stopped holding back. Admiral Taeho Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Dauntless, looking at a tactical display that showed odds no sane commander would accept 47 human ships against 212 alien vessels. Sir, Navigator Sojin Park said quietly, the enemy fleet is massive. Are you sure about this? Taeho looked at his crew. They had been together for 3 years, fighting pirates and keeping the peace. Now they were about to face the largest, Alien battle fleet assembled in 50 years. The aliens think numbers are everything, he replied. They're about to learn they're wrong. Begin the attack. The alien commander, a Xanthari admiral named Velkaran, watched the human ships approach. On his tactical screen, he could not believe what he was seeing. They're actually attacking, he said to his bridge crew. 47 ships against our entire fleet. Are they insane? His tactical officer was equally confused. Perhaps it's a diversion, sir. Maybe their main fleet is attacking somewhere else. No, Velkaran said, studying the human formation. This is their main attack. They think they can win with just these ships. He was right. This was humanity's main attack. But what he did not understand was what these ships could do. The first human ship to fire was the UES Nemesis, Admiral So-Young, Park's flagship. Her quantum cannons charged for exactly 1.3 seconds. Before releasing enough energy to power a small planet, the beam struck a Korthic battleship dead center. The alien vessel simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged. It was gone as if it had never been there at all. What just happened? Velkaran demanded. The human ship fired some kind of energy weapon, his sensor officer replied, his voice shaking. The battleship Korthek S. Pride is ... done, sir. Completely gone? That was just the beginning, Lieutenant. Commander Bio-Ram Kim was Admiral Taeho's tactical coordinator, and she had spent months planning this battle. Not planning to fight it, planning to win it so completely that no alien would ever again think about attacking human colonies. Initiate. Protocol 7, she ordered. Protocol 7 was something new. Something the aliens had never seen before. It used humanity's most advanced technology to turn the laws of physics into weapons. The first thing the aliens noticed was that time seemed to slow down around the human ships. Their weapons fired, but the energy beams moved like they were traveling through thick liquid. Their missiles launched, but they barely seemed to move at all. Temporal displacement fields, Bio-Ram explained to the bridge crew. We're operating in accelerated time. To us, everything happens normally. To them, we're moving too fast to track. The human ships began to move through the alien formation like sharks through a school of fish. They fired their weapons before. The aliens could even aim theirs. They changed course before the enemy could predict where they were going. Admiral Velkaran watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. Ships that had taken years to build were destroyed in seconds. Crews that had trained for decades died before they could fire a single shot. All ships, concentrate fire on the human flagship. He ordered desperately. 200 alien ships turned their weapons toward the UES Dauntless. Enough firepower to crack a moon focused on one target. None of it mattered. The Dauntless was protected by something the aliens had never encountered, a quantum entanglement shield. Every shot that hit the ship was instantly redirected to a random point in space millions of kilometers away. Their shields are impossible, Velkaran's weapons officer reported. We're hitting them, but the damage is appearing somewhere else. Somewhere else? Empty space, sir. Our shots are just ... disappearing. Chief Engineer Miran Troy was monitoring the battle from her position on the Dauntless. She had designed many of the systems that were keeping the ship alive, but even she was amazed at how well they worked. Quantum entanglement holding steady, she reported. Energy displacement at 99.7% efficiency. We're barely taking any damage at all. The alien fleet was learning something new about human technology. For 50 years, they had seen human ships that were advanced but still understandable. Ships that followed the same basic rules as everyone else's. These ships did not follow. Those rules, the Yui's Vengeance, commanded by Admiral Sung-Min Park, demonstrated the next impossible weapon. The ship fired what looked like a normal missile at a group of Solari energy beings. The missile did not explode when it hit them. Instead, it created a small black hole that lasted for exactly 10 seconds. Long enough to pull in 12 enemy ships before disappearing. Singularity torpedoes, the Iron Wolf explained to his crew. We compress matter until it forms a temporary black hole, very effective against group targets. Weapons Officer Hyun-Woo Lee was having the time of his life. For years, he had been limited to basic weapons that were considered acceptable by galactic law. Now he could use everything humanity had developed. "Target the enemy command ship," Admiral Taeho ordered. "With pleasure, sir," Hyun-Woo replied. He selected a weapon that had never been fired in actual combat. Reality distortion cannon, ready. To fire reality distortion? Sojin asked. "What does that do?" "It makes things stop existing," Hyun-Woo explained. "Not destroys them, makes them never have existed in the first place." The beam struck Admiral Velkoran's flagship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship began to fade, like a picture that was slowly being erased. "Sir," the alien admiral's communications officer said, his voice filled with confusion. "Our ship is disappearing." Velkoran looked around his bridge. His crew was becoming transparent. He could see through the walls of his ship to the space beyond. "What is happening to us?" he whispered. Those were his last words. A moment later, he and his ship and his entire crew ceased to exist. Not just in that moment, but in all moments. The universe forgot they had ever been there. The battle continued for another 20 minutes, but the outcome was never in doubt. The aliens had brought a fleet designed to fight other aliens. The humans had brought weapons designed to rewrite reality. When it was over, 47 human ships remained operational. 0 alien ships survived, but the real shock for the aliens was not just that they lost. It was how they lost. Captain Jae-Sung Kim, still hidden in his stealth ship, recorded the entire battle. The footage would be transmitted to every alien government in the galaxy. They needed to see what happened when you made humanity angry. Did we really just win that fight without losing a single ship? His communications officer asked. "Yes," Jae-Sung replied. "And that's the point. We want them to know that this was not even difficult for us. We want them to understand that we have been holding back for 50 years. News of the Battle of Zarian 7 spread across the galaxy faster than light. Every alien government received the same message. 47 human ships had destroyed a fleet of over 200 vessels without taking any casualties. Counselor Vexthara watched the battle footage in her private chambers. She had started this war to prove that humans could be beaten. Instead, she had proven the opposite. How is this possible? She asked her military advisor. "We don't know," came the reply. "Our scientists are studying the footage, but the weapons the humans used, they shouldn't be possible. They violate fundamental laws of physics." "Laws of physics don't matter if you're dead," Vexthara said quietly. General Korthax was having the same conversation with his advisors. The battle footage showed his people's ships being destroyed by weapons that worked like magic. "How do we fight an enemy that can control time and space?" he asked. "We don't," his chief of staff replied. "We surrender." Collective voice Silanara was perhaps the most disturbed by what she saw. The Silari were beings of pure energy, and they understood the universe in ways that other species could not. That was why the battle footage terrified her so much. "The humans are not just using advanced technology," she told the collective. "They are using weapons that change the basic rules of reality. We are not fighting a more advanced civilization. We are fighting something that has learned to rewrite the universe itself." The 3 leaders of the triumvirate met one last time on their secret base. But this meeting was very different from their first one. "We have to surrender," General Korthax said immediately. "Not negotiate, not seek terms. Complete unconditional surrender." "The collective agrees," Silanara added. "Continuing this war will result in the complete extinction of all our species." Vexthara looked at her allies. A week ago, they had been confident that they could defeat humanity. Now they were talking about extinction. "How did we get this so wrong?" she asked. "We believed our own propaganda," Korthax replied. "We told ourselves that humans were just another species. We convinced ourselves that their reputation was exaggerated." "It was not exaggerated," Silanara said quietly. "If anything, it was understated. The humans have been holding back for 50 years. Now we know why. But it was too late for surrender." The human war machine was fully active now, and it would not stop until every alien who had participated in the attack on the colonies was dealt with. The aliens had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they had learned one about consequences. Admiral Minho Park had never commanded an operation like this before. As he stood on the bridge of the UES Apocalypse, he was looking at star charts that showed 17 different star systems marked for complete military destruction. Operation Judgment was not about conquest or territory. It was about making sure that no alien species would ever again think about attacking human colonies. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we've confirmed the locations of all major triumvirate military installations. Shipyards, training facilities, weapon storage depots, communication networks, everything, and civilian populations?" Minho asked. "All civilian evacuation warnings have been transmitted. They have 72 hours to clear the target zones." Minho nodded. Even in total war, humanity maintained certain principles. They would destroy every military asset the enemy possessed, but they would give innocent people a chance to escape first. "Begin Phase 1, he ordered. The first target was a massive Xanthari shipyard in the Kepler system. It was where they built their largest warships, and it was protected by 3 orbital defense platforms and a fleet of 50 patrol vessels. Captain Hey, One Lee commanded the UES Apocalypse's escort, a ship called the UES Mercy. The name was not ironic. Her job was to make sure that any civilian ships trying to evacuate were not caught in the destruction. "Captain Lee," Minho said over the communication channel, "are all civilian vessels clear of the target zone?" "Confirmed, Admiral," Hay-1 replied. "The last refugee ship jumped to hyperspace 10 minutes ago. The area is clear." "Very well, you may fire when ready." The UES Apocalypse moved into firing position. The ship was enormous, even by human standards. It was designed for one purpose: destroying things that were too big or too well defended for normal weapons. The ship's main weapon was called a reality distortion cannon. It did not fire energy or projectiles, it fired mathematics. It changed the fundamental equations that described how matter and energy behaved in a specific area of space. Minho looked at his weapons officer. "Target locked?" "Yes, sir." "Old defensive platforms and the shipyard complex." "Fire." The reality distortion cannon charged for 30 seconds. When it fired, there was no flash of light or explosion. There was just a moment when the laws of physics stopped working correctly in a sphere 50 kilometers across. Inside that sphere, matter forgot how to hold itself together. Energy forgot how to move in straight lines. Time forgot how to flow forward. The Xanthari shipyard did not explode. It simply ceased to make sense. The metal structures twisted into impossible shapes before dissolving into component atoms. The defensive platforms turned inside out, and then scattered across 17 dimensions that did not exist. The 50 patrol ships tried to escape, but they were caught in the reality distortion field. They experienced every possible future simultaneously, before finally settling on the one where they had never been built in the first place. "Target eliminated," the weapons officer reported calmly. Minho looked at the empty space where the shipyard had been. There was nothing there now, not even debris. It was as if the entire complex had been erased from history. "On to the next." "Target," he ordered. Dr. Sun-hee Kim was the chief medical officer aboard the UES Mercy, and she was having the strangest assignment of her career. Her job was to provide medical aid to alien civilians who were fleeing the war zones. It was not a job she had expected to have during a total war, but it was exactly the kind of thing that made humans different from other species. "Doctor," her assistant called out, "we have another refugee ship requesting medical assistance. They have wounded aboard." "Bring them into Bay 7, Sun-hee replied, "and prepare the surgical suites. Some of these people have been injured in the evacuation." The refugee ship was a small Korthik vessel filled with families who had lived near a military base. They were not soldiers. They were just people who had the bad luck to live in the wrong place when the war started. "Thank you for helping us," the ship's captain said when he met Dr. Kim. We did not expect mercy from humans during wartime. We're not at war with your people, Sun He explained. We're at war with the ones who attacked our colonies. There's a difference. It was a difference that most alien species did not understand. When they fought wars, they fought entire populations. When humans fought wars, they fought only those who had actually done something wrong. The systematic destruction of triumvirate military assets continued for weeks. Every shipyard, every training facility, every weapons depot was located and eliminated. The humans used weapons that the aliens could not understand or defend against. The Korthic hegemony was the first to realize that continued resistance was impossible. General Korthak sent a message to Fleet Admiral Chang Ho Lam requesting a meeting to discuss surrender terms. The meeting took place on a neutral space, stationed in the DMZ between human and alien territory. General Korthax arrived with a full diplomatic escort. Expecting to negotiate like civilized beings, he was surprised to find that the human delegation consisted of exactly one person, Admiral Sung-Min Park, the Iron Wolf. Where are your diplomats? Korthax asked. I am the diplomat, Sung-Min replied. This is a military surrender, not a political negotiation. You attacked our colonies, you killed our people. Now you face the consequences. What are your terms? Sung-Min placed a datapad on the table between them. Complete disarmament of all military forces, dismantling of all weapons manufacturing facilities, reparations for the families of everyone killed in your attacks, and exile of all military commanders who participated in the operation. Korthax read the terms and felt his heart sink. They were harsh, but they were also survivable. His people would live even if they would never again be a military power. We accept, he said quietly. Wise choice, Sung-Min replied. Your people will be relocated to systems far from human space. You will be monitored to ensure compliance with the terms, but you will live. The Silari Collective tried a different approach. Instead of surrendering, they attempted one final attack on Earth itself. Collective Voice Silanara led a fleet of energy beings directly toward the Sol system, hoping to strike at the heart of human power before the war could continue. It was the worst mistake they could have made. Sol system's defenses had been upgraded continuously for 50 years. Not because humanity expected to be attacked there, but because they were paranoid about protecting their homeworld. The Solari fleet never made it past Neptune. Captain Kyung-Soo Lee commanded the outer system defense grid from his flagship, the UES Guardian. His sensors detected the incoming energy beings when they were still 1 billion kilometers away. Hostile fleet detected, his tactical officer reported. Estimated 150 Solari vessels approaching at maximum speed. Activate the Sol Defense Network. Kyung-Soo ordered. The Sol Defense Network was humanity's ultimate protective system. It consisted of thousands of automated weapons platforms hidden throughout the outer system. Each platform was equipped with weapons specifically designed to fight energy beings. Network activated, his weapons officer confirmed. All platforms reporting ready status. The Solari fleet ran straight into a trap that had been waiting for them for decades. The moment they entered the outer system, every platform opened fire simultaneously. The weapons were called quantum scramblers. They did not destroy energy beings. They scrambled their quantum signatures, making it impossible for them to maintain coherence. 150 Solari vessels entered the Sol system. 0 made it past the asteroid belt. Collective Voice Silanara's final transmission was received by Human Intelligence Services. It was just 2 words: we're sorry. With the Korthic hegemony surrendered and the Solari Collective eliminated, only the Xanthari Empire remained. But Counselor Vexthara was not ready to give up. She had one final plan. One last desperate gambit that might save her people from total defeat. Deep in the archives of the Xanthari homeworld was a map. A map that showed the location of something that had been lost for thousands of years. Something that the ancient predecessor civilization had built before they vanished from the galaxy, a superweapon capable of destroying stars. If we cannot defeat the humans in battle, Vexthara told her remaining advisors, Then we will threaten their homeworld. We will force them to negotiate by holding a gun to their son. It was a desperate plan. A plan that would almost certainly result in her death even if it worked. But Vexthara no longer cared about survival. She cared only about proving that the Zenthari Empire would not go quietly into the night. Prepare a ship, she ordered. I'm going to find the predecessor weapon. Her advisors looked at her in horror. Counselor, that weapon is a myth. And, even if it exists, using it would destroy both our species. Then so be it, Vexthara replied. If the Zenthari cannot live free, then no one will live at all. She did not know that human intelligence was monitoring all of her communications. She did not know that her plan to find the superweapon had already been detected, and she certainly did not know that Admiral Ji-Hoon Yoon was already preparing a mission to stop her. The final confrontation of the war was about to begin. The ancient ruins on Kepler 442b had been dead for 10,000 years, but Counselor Vexthara could feel the power sleeping beneath the broken stones. This was where the predecessor civilization had built their greatest weapon before they vanished from the galaxy. This was where she would make her final stand against humanity. The Star Killer is here, she said to her small team of loyal followers. According to the old maps, it should be directly beneath the main temple complex. Her chief engineer looked worried. Counselor, even if we can find this weapon, do we know how to use it? The predecessors were far more advanced than we are. We will learn, Vexthara replied grimly. We have to. It's the only way to force the humans to negotiate. What she did not know was that Admiral Ji-Hoon Yoon's ship, the UES Defiant, was already in orbit above them. The humans had been tracking her movements for weeks, waiting to see what desperate plan she was trying to execute. Sir, Engineer Yoon. Park reported from her station. I'm detecting massive energy readings from beneath the planet's surface. Something down there is definitely artificial, and it's definitely powerful. Admiral Ji-Hoon studied the sensor readings. The energy signatures were unlike anything in human databases. They were older than recorded history and more complex than anything the current galactic civilizations could build. How powerful are we talking about? He asked. Powerful enough to destabilize a star, came the reply. Maybe powerful enough to make it go supernova. Ji-Hoon felt a cold fear in his stomach. If Vexthara could actually activate a weapon like that and target Earth's sun, she could hold the entire human species hostage. Dr. Yan-Su, he called to his Xenorchaeologist, what do you know about predecessor technology? Dr. Yan-Su Kim was humanity's leading expert on the vanished civilization that had once ruled much of the galaxy. She had spent her entire career studying their ruins and trying to understand their technology. The predecessors were incredibly advanced, she explained, but their weapons were also incredibly dangerous. Most of them required a living consciousness to control them. They were designed to bond with the user's mind. What does that mean? It means that whoever activates the weapon becomes part of it. They control it completely, but they can never be separated from it. And when the weapon is used ... she paused, the user dies. Ji-Hoon understood immediately. Vexthara was not planning to survive this. She was willing to sacrifice her life to destroy Earth's sun. How long do we have? He asked. Pilot Wu Jin Lee was monitoring the alien expedition on the planet's surface. They're moving fast, sir. At their current rate, they'll reach the weapon chamber in about 6 hours. And how long to activate it once they get there? Dr. Yan-Su consulted her research notes. Based on other predecessor sites I've studied, probably another 2 to 3 hours. The bonding process takes time. Ji-Hoon made his decision. Prepare a landing team. We're going down there. Sir, Dayoon said worriedly, if that weapon activates while we're on the planet, then we'll die along with everyone else in the solar system, Ji-Hoon finished. But if we don't try to stop it, billions of people on Earth will die anyway. The landing team consisted of Admiral Ji-Hoon, Dr. Yan-Su, Engineer Dayoon, and Pilot Wu Jin. They took a small shuttle down to the planet's surface and began making their way through the ancient ruins. The temple complex was massive. Buildings, The size of mountains stretched as far as they could see, all of them covered with strange symbols that seemed to shift and change when nobody was looking directly at them. The predecessors built things to last, Dr. Yansu said as they walked through corridors that had been empty for millennia. But they also built them to be alive in a way. Their technology was part machine, part organism. They could hear voices ahead of them. Vexthura and her team had found the entrance to the weapon chamber and were trying to figure out how to open it. The control systems are completely alien, one of the Xanthari engineers was saying. I can't even tell which parts are supposed to be touched. Keep trying, Vexthura ordered. The humans could arrive at any moment, she was right. The humans were already there. Admiral Ji-hoon and his team positioned themselves at the entrance to the chamber. Through the ancient doorway, they could see a sight that took their breath away. The Starkiller was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It looked like a giant crystal flower with petals of pure energy that pulsed with colors that had no names. At the center of the flower was a chair that seemed to be made of living light. That's the control throne, Dr. Yansu whispered. Whoever sits in that chair becomes the weapon's guiding intelligence. Vexthara had found the activation sequence. The weapon was beginning to wake up after 10,000 years of sleep. The crystal petals started glowing brighter, and a low humming sound filled the chamber. It's working, she said with satisfaction. The Starkiller is coming online. That was when Admiral Ji-hoon stepped into the chamber. Counselor Vexthara, he said calmly, I'm Admiral Ji-hoon Yoon of Earth's fleet. I'm here to ask you to step away from that weapon. Vexthara spun around, her forearms reaching for the sidearm at her belt. But she stopped when she saw that the human was not pointing a weapon at her. You're asking? She said with surprise. Yes, Ji-hoon replied, I'm asking. Because I know what that weapon will do to you if you use it. Dr. Kim here is an expert on predecessor technology. She can explain it better than I can. Dr. Yansu stepped forward. The Starkiller requires a living mind to guide it. But the process of bonding with the weapon will burn out your nervous system. You'll be conscious for maybe 10 seconds after activation. Long enough to target a star and fire, but not long enough to see if it worked. I know, Vexthara said. Quietly, I've always known this would be a suicide mission. Then why? Ji-hoon asked. Why throw your life away for revenge? Because my people deserve better than extinction. Vexthara shouted. You humans came out of nowhere and took over half the galaxy. You act like you own the universe. We never wanted to own anything, Ji-hoon replied. We just wanted to be left alone. You're the ones who attacked our colonies. You killed 12 million innocent people. Innocent? Vexthara laughed bitterly. There are no innocent humans. You're all part of the same war machine. Are these people part of a war machine? Dr. Yansu asked, pulling out a datapad that showed pictures from the refugee ships. These are Korthik and Solari civilians that we've been helping to evacuate. Children whose only crime was living near military bases. Vexthara looked at the pictures, families huddled together in refugee camps. Children with frightened eyes. People who looked just like the human civilians her forces had killed. We were trying to protect ourselves, she said, but her voice had lost its conviction. By murdering families? Ji-hoon asked. By destroying entire colonies? That's not protection. That's terrorism. The weapon was fully active now. The crystal petals were spinning slowly, building up energy for a shot that could destroy a star from hundreds of light years away. All Vexthara had to do was sit in the control throne and think about Earth's sun, but she hesitated. If I don't do this, she said, what happens to my people? What happens to the Xanthari Empire? Your people live, Ji-hoon said simply. Your empire is finished, but your species survives. We're not interested in genocide. We just want to make sure this never happens again. And me? Ji-hoon was quiet for a moment. That depends on what you do in the next few minutes. Vexthara looked at the control throne. Everything she had worked for, everything she had planned came down to this moment. She could destroy Earth's sun and force humanity to negotiate. She could save the Xanthari Empire's honor, but she would have to become a mass murderer on a scale that the galaxy had never seen. "How many people live in the Sol system?" she asked. "About 15 billion, Dr. Yansu replied. "Most of them on Earth, but there are colonies throughout the system. 15 billion people. 15 billion lives that would end if she sat in that chair, including the human children she had just seen in the refugee pictures." Vexthara stepped away from the control throne. "I can't do it," she said quietly. "I can't kill that many innocent people." Admiral Ji-hoon nodded with respect. "That decision makes you better than the people who started this war." "What happens now?" Vexthara asked. "Now we shut down this weapon and make sure it can never be used again," Ji-hoon replied. "And then we figure out how to end this war in a way that doesn't require anyone else to die." Dr. Yan S. 6 months after the war ended, the galaxy was a very different place. Fleet Commander Tae-ho Kim stood on the observation deck of Starbase Unity, watching as ships from dozens of different species docked at the massive space station. Some were human vessels, but many were not. Former enemies were now working together under the new galactic order. "It's strange, isn't it?" said Captain Sojin Park, who had been promoted to admiral after the war. 6 months ago, these people were trying to kill us. Now they're asking us to protect them from pirates. Tae-ho nodded. The Treaty of New Geneva had changed everything. Earth's fleet was now officially responsible for keeping peace throughout the galaxy. It was a job they had been doing unofficially for 50 years, but now everyone understood the rules. "How are the integration programs going?" he asked. "Better than expected," Sojin replied. "We have former Xanthari, Korthik, and even some Solari serving on human ships now. They're good officers once they learn to work with our technology." One of those former enemies was Captain Velanara, who had once served under Counselor Vexthara. Now she was the executive officer aboard the UES Harmony, learning human military procedures and helping to train other aliens who wanted to join Earth's fleet. "The humans fight differently than we do," she explained to a group of new recruits in the ship's briefing room. "They don't seek glory or conquest, they seek efficiency. They want to end conflicts as quickly as possible with the least amount of damage to everyone involved." "But what about their weapons?" asked the young Korthik officer. "The reality distortion cannons, the temporal displacement fields? Those seem designed to cause maximum damage." Velanara smiled. It was a question she had asked herself many times. Those weapons exist to prevent wars, not to fight them. When your enemies know that you can erase them from existence, they think very carefully before attacking you. The new galactic government was headquartered on Luna, Earth's moon. The Galactic Council still existed, but it now had a very different structure. Humanity held permanent seats and veto power over military actions. More importantly, every species in the galaxy now understood that there were consequences for breaking the peace. Elder Counselor Morden, now over 1,000 years old, had been elected as the Council's president. His first official act was to establish the new rule that would govern galactic affairs. Any species that attacks civilian populations will face the full response of Earth's fleet. It was simple, clear, and absolutely terrifying to anyone who remembered what that response looked like. The Fleet Academy on Luna was perhaps the most important symbol of the new order. Admiral Sojin Park had established it as a place where officers from all species could learn to work together. The curriculum included tactical training, diplomatic procedures, and one mandatory course that everyone had to pass. Historical analysis. Why you don't fight Earth's fleet was taught by Admiral Sung-min Park, the Iron Wolf himself. Despite his age, he had agreed to come out of retirement one more time to make sure that future generations understood the lessons of the war. The triumvirate made 3 critical mistakes, he told his mixed class of human and alien cadets. First, they assumed that humanity's peaceful behavior meant we were weak. Second, they thought that our scattered fleet deployments meant we couldn't respond to multiple threats. Third, they believed that killing our civilians would break our will to fight. A young Xanthari cadet raised her hand. "Admiral, what should they have done instead?" Sun-min smiled grimly. Nothing. They should have done absolutely nothing. The only winning move when it comes to fighting Earth's fleet is not to play the game at all. Captain Kyung-Soo Lee commanded the UES Unity, humanity's newest diplomatic vessel. It was designed to be impressive without being threatening, a ship that could carry ambassadors and negotiators anywhere in the galaxy while demonstrating human technological superiority. The Unity's crew was the most diverse in human history. Half the officers were from other species, working alongside humans in an integration program that was being studied by xenosociologists throughout the galaxy. "Captain," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Outer Rim. A new species has just made first contact with one of our patrol ships." Kyung-Soo smiled. First contact situations were always delicate, but they were also exciting. Each new species that joined the galactic community brought new perspectives and new possibilities. "Set course for the contact coordinates," he ordered, "and prepare the standard first contact protocols." The standard protocols had been rewritten after the war. They now included a complete briefing on galactic law, trade regulations, and the consequences of aggressive behavior. Most importantly, they included a clear explanation of Earth's fleet and its role in maintaining galactic peace. The new species was called the Phylorians, and they were exactly the kind of people that the old galactic order would have ignored. They were small, peaceful, and not particularly advanced technologically. Under the previous system, larger species would have eventually conquered or enslaved them. Under the new system, they were immediately offered the protection of Earth's fleet. "We don't understand," the Phylorian ambassador said during the first contact meeting. "Why would you protect us? We have nothing to offer you in return." Captain Kyung-Soo had heard this question many times before. "You have your lives and your culture. That's enough. We protect people not because of what they can give us, but because it's the right thing to do." "But what if we cannot pay for this protection?" "You're not paying for protection," Kyung-Soo explained. "You're joining a community. Everyone contributes what they can, and everyone receives what they need. The strong protect the weak, and the weak support the strong in other ways." It was a philosophy that had taken humanity centuries to develop, and it was now being applied on a galactic scale. The war crimes trial of Counselor Vexthara was held on the neutral world of Sanctuary Station. She was charged with planning and executing attacks on civilian populations, resulting in the deaths of 12 million people. The prosecutor was a human, but the defense attorney was a Xanthari who had volunteered to represent her. The judges was selected from multiple species, ensuring that the trial would be seen as fair by the entire galaxy. Admiral Ji-Hoon Yoon testified as a character witness, describing how Vexthara had chosen not to use the predecessor weapon even when it would have given her people a chance at victory. "She made a terrible mistake when she ordered the attacks on our colonies," he told the court. "But when faced with the choice between genocide and defeat, she chose defeat. That decision saved 15 billion lives." The court found Vexthara guilty of war crimes but sentenced her to exile rather than execution. She would spend the rest of her life on a remote world, cut off from galactic society but allowed to live. As she was led away to begin her exile, she stopped and spoke to Admiral Ji-Hoon. "Do you think the galaxy is really better now?" she asked. "Yes," he replied without hesitation. "Because now everyone understands the rules. The galaxy was indeed better." For the first time in recorded history, there were no major wars being fought anywhere. Piracy was down to almost nothing. Trade was flourishing. New species were being discovered and welcomed into the galactic community on a regular basis, but the real measure of the New Order's success was simpler than statistics about war and peace. It was the fact that a small, peaceful species like the Phylorians could exist without fear. It was that children of all species could grow up knowing that someone was watching over them, and it was the knowledge that in the vast darkness of space, there was a force dedicated to protecting the innocent and punishing those who would harm them. Earth's fleet had become more than just humanity's military. It had become the galaxy's conscience. 10 years after the war, Captain Jamin Park was commanding a patrol ship in the Outer Rim when his sensors detected something unusual. A small alien vessel was broadcasting a distress signal. "What's there?" "Situation?" he asked his communications officer. "Engine failure, sir. They're a family of traders from the Corellian system. Their ship is dead in space." "Any other vessels in the area that could help them?" "No, sir. We're the only ship within 50 light years." Jamin didn't hesitate. Change course to intercept. Prepare the rescue shuttles. It was exactly the kind of mission that Earth's fleet performed thousands of times every year, helping stranded travelers, protecting trade routes, investigating distress signals. The work was often boring, but it was also vitally important. As his ship approached the disabled trader, Jamin thought about how much things had changed. 10 years ago, a human warship approaching an alien vessel would have caused panic. Now it caused relief. "Captain," the alien trader said over the communication channel, "thank the stars you found us. Our children were getting scared." "We'll have you back on your way soon," Jamin assured him. "That's what we're here for." That simple exchange summed up everything that had changed in the galaxy. Fear had been replaced by trust. Suspicion had been replaced by cooperation. The strong protected the weak not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And in the depths of space, the ships of Earth's fleet continued their eternal patrol, making sure that the galaxy remained a place where families could travel safely and